Hey ladies, welcome back to the Rejuvenating Health podcast. I'm nurse practitioner Lindsey, and we have Coach Laken here today.
Hey, ladies. Today we're going to talk
Awesome.
about a fun topic. What are we talking about today, Lindsay?
We're talking about sleep, right?
Mm,
Which is super fun because most women have trouble with sleep when they get in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they're like, why can't I sleep anymore? They're waking up in the middle of the night, they're tossing and turning, they're having hot flashes, and they're literally just annoyed, and it makes them grumpier the next day, and it affects their metabolism, and it makes them hungrier as well. So we're going to dig into that.
yeah, and I mean, it affects a lot of stuff for longevity too. Like, we'll talk about like hormones and metabolism and increases of risk of chronic disease. But if you are listening to this and you're like, yeah, that's me. I can fall asleep, or I struggle to fall asleep, or I wake up at 2 a.m. every single night. Usually it's like 2 to 3 a.m. is what we see the most. You're not alone. This is a very common struggle with so many women that we work with, and we want to address it because it comes up quite a bit in our community.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so let's kind of break down why it gets harder in midlife, right? And there's three kind of main players here why this happens. So it's your hormones, your cortisol, and your circadian rhythm. So I'll kind of dig into hormones and then Laken can dig into cortisol and then we'll kind of go from there. But those hormonal shifts, particularly progesterone, have a huge effect. And that progesterone starts declining in your late 30s. So think of progesterone as your calming hormone. So it stimulates your GABA receptors in your brain. So the same calming pathway that medications like Xanax or Valium target, right? So in perimenopause and menopause, these progesterone levels plummet. So there's less GABA activity. So you get more racing thoughts and less restless and more restless nights, right?
Yeah.
So
So that's why you wake
progesterone,
up in the middle of the night and you're like running through all the items in your to-do list a million times and you can't fall back asleep.
yeah. And I mean, that starts happening in your 30s.
Mhm.
So it's huge. And progesterone, when it declines, causes a lot of night sweats, right? We think of it as estrogen, but estrogen does play a huge role in regulating your serotonin and body temperature, and fluctuations trigger hot flashes and night sweats, which is where your temperature spikes at bedtime and pulls you out of that deep sleep. But progesterone plays a role in that as well. Um, and so does testosterone and DHEA. Testosterone and DHEA, I think a lot of times we just think about libido, but those are both really important for stable mood and energy. And low levels, like one of the biggest complaints of low testosterone in men that I hear is trouble sleeping. And it's the same
Mm.
with women. It causes fragmented sleep.
Yeah. And then we can talk about cortisol dysregulation, right? So ideally, what we'd like to see is cortisol peaks in the morning as we wake up, and then throughout the day, it steadily declines. We have this nice like curve. And many women in midlife, this curve actually ends up getting flipped. So we see it kind of suppressed early in the morning, and then it like rises as we're getting closer to the time that we want to go to sleep, which is not good. So high cortisol at night is going to give us that wired and tired sensation. And when it's low in the morning, that's when it's like I never feel like I feel rested, right? I could sleep for 10 plus hours and I feel like I'm dragging myself out of bed and I feel that chronic fatigue early in the morning. And root causes of this are going to be surprise, surprise, chronic stress, right? Compounded over time, under eating. If your system is not nourished and not fueled properly, you're not going to be functioning optimally in that way. Over exercising is going to do that to us. Blood sugar crashes. We talked a lot about that in our insulin episode or insulin resistance episode. And then a lot of times it's just a compound effect of years of adrenal strain, right? We'll see that adrenal fatigue at that point in life. We talked about all the life factors before that are happening at midlife, where your children are at an age where they're a little bit older, but probably the demands of their schedule are higher. We have aging parents that we start taking on more responsibilities for. Our careers are at a point where we're holding on to a lot of responsibility. So it's just a lot of pressure at that point, and some of it that we're creating for ourselves. And so there's a lot of reasons why we see this cortisol dysregulation very commonly in women in this age range.
And this is one you can't out supplement and can't out medicate. Like you literally
Yeah.
have to take the time to heal it, right? I mean, yeah, you can like take a Xanax or Ambien and knock yourself out, but you're not getting good deep sleep then. And we'll kind of talk
Right.
about that when we get to sleep stages, but you're really going to have to take the time to heal that adrenal stress in order to get good sleep, right?
Yeah, like sedated sleep is very different than actual sleep and accessing that deep sleep and that REM sleep cycle.
Yeah, yeah. And circadian rhythm plays a huge role in this as well, right? Like our brain has a master clock and it
Hmm.
runs on light and dark cycles. So blue light at night, irregular sleep schedules, midlife hormonal changes mess up that clock essentially. Our melatonin declines with age, and then it's further suppressed by being on our phone until right before bed, right? So I can't stress how important consistent sleep and wake times are. Like, you should be going to bed and waking up at the same time, even on Friday, Saturdays, your day is off. Like, if you can get your circadian rhythm in check, that's going to help your sleep so much.
Yeah, it's huge. And a lot of times, people will ask, like, how is that, how is that possible? And it's like, okay, well, you have to start with one anchor. And we'll talk about this when we get into some of the lifestyle practices of the habits later. But it's like, okay, choose an anchor time as far as like, can I always ensure that I'm waking up within an hour of the same time daily, or vice versa, going to bed within an hour of the same time daily? And by default, over time, your clock will start to regulate around those anchored slots. But the reason that you wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning every morning isn't random, right? It could be estrogen drops, it could be cortisol spikes, it could be blood sugar dipping, right, from dinner that maybe didn't have enough protein or that was a
Yeah.
little bit later than we like because it's too close to that bedtime. So there's a lot of reasons that can contribute to these things being off.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of talking like the science of sleep, and this is where it's really important that you kind of understand this and that why taking an Ambien or a Benadryl or one of those things that knock you out aren't super beneficial. So there's different sleep stages. And if you have any type of tracker, it can monitor this for you. But stage one and stage two are those is that light sleep. Stage three is that deep, slow wave sleep that is really, really important for tissue repair, growth hormone release, glucose metabolism that many people lack. This is your deep sleep. And then REM is that stage where you're dreaming, right? So you're having the brain processing, the memory, the emotional regulation. And when we get older, especially when we're in midlife as women, that we lose that slow wave first sleep, meaning we have less physical repair and more insulin resistance because we're not getting that deep sleep. Like our deep sleep shortens a ton. And when that happens, our sensitivity is reduced by like up to 30% in just one night,
Mm,
which is crazy.
yeah, that's a lot.
Um yeah, and so if you're having a blood sugar crash at night, you're getting this adrenaline and cortisol surge, you're waking up and then your insulin sensitivity the next day is reduced by 30%. So it's really important that
Yeah,
you
and well,
yeah.
that's also going to contribute to that increased rate of muscle loss that we've talked about previously before
Yeah.
too, right? That happens with age because when we're not sleeping enough and we're not getting that really necessary physical repair overnight for our muscle tissue, that's going to contribute to that decline along with the hormonal disruption. And then we've got our neurotransmitters, right? And you mentioned GABA previously, but just to outline what these are, right? GABA is our like calming hormone, right? It's going to lower without the progesterone that Lindsey mentioned earlier. Serotonin is our sleep precursor. So this is going to fluctuate with our estrogen changes, right, in response to that in kind. And then dopamine, that's going to be our motivation and alertness. And so that when it's too high at night, as it adjusts that cortisol curve being off, right, then that's going to create that restlessness feeling. And that's why so many women feel like, I just feel like a different person when I finally get a good night of sleep, right? If they finally start to get attuned and build a strong ritual to create a good nighttime routine. Or a lot of times it'll happen. We'll see like when women travel, like if they ever go on like a solo trip for work, right? Or like if they're on vacation, there's just less things that are running through our mind all the time. They'll come back and like, oh my gosh, I slept so great, right? But it's not just the rest, like your entire hormonal and metabolic system are resetting during that extremely valuable sleep.
Yeah, it's so critical for women in midlife. And the most critical time is 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Mm.
So if you're one of those people that stays up till midnight, you're missing you're not getting in deep sleep between 10 and 2. That's for dang sure. Like 10 to 2 is a really critical time for you to be in bed, not going to bed, like in bed getting sleep, right? 9 o'clock seems to be that like time where we need to be at least hitting the sack, right? And
Yeah.
I tell our patients all the time, I would rather you get a good night's sleep than go work out. And they look at me like I'm crazy, but you cannot brush off your sleep. And you cannot be like, I just don't need as much sleep anymore, because the science literally shows you the complete opposite. As you're getting older, you need more sleep than ever, right? Because if you're wanting to balance and optimize your hormones, that deep sleep is where your hormones are regulated. It's where you're releasing your growth hormone, which drives muscle repair, fat metabolism, even your collagen for your skin. And without that deep sleep, you're going to get muscle loss, you're going to get fat gain, and your skin's going to age, right? And then when we're not sleeping, our hunger hormones get messed up. So your ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is going to increase, and your leptin, your satiety hormone, is going to decrease. So you're going to feel hungrier, you're going to crave carbs, and you're going to store fat a lot more
Yeah.
easily.
That's the
And
biggest thing I noticed. Like when my sleep suffers, like I already have a sweet tooth. And so then like, but my sugar cravings are through the roof the next day. I'm looking for
yeah,
that quick hit of energy.
yeah. And just 1 week of sleeping less than 6 hours reduces insulin sensitivity as much as gaining 10 to 15 pounds,
Hmm.
which is freaking wild. So women who sleep less than 7 hours a night consistently, you're just putting yourself at risk for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Like, you have to sleep more than 7 hours. I don't care if you say, I don't need 7 hours of sleep. Yes, you do. The science says otherwise.
Yeah, and it's like we've talked about before, right? How do you know if you don't actually do that thing for a long enough period of time to be able to test out the difference of how you actually feel, right? So many
Yeah.
times we just get accustomed to doing these things and we're like, oh, I'm fine. You don't know how good you could feel with it. So, like, give it a solid try and do it for over a week and see the differences, because there will be differences. And it's a matter of getting that return on your investment, like you said, of prioritizing sleep over a workout, because at the end of the day, I could work out 5 days a week, an hour a day, very regimented training schedule. And if I'm not sleeping, a lot of that energy output is going to be wasted because I'm not able to have the recovery to get the benefits that I will get out of that strength training if I'm sleeping. So we start to look at this idea of diminishing gains over time, right? When we're chipping away at both sides. And then I want to talk about like the brain and the mental health aspect of this, right? So like REM sleep is critical for memory consolidation and emotional processing. This is really big, ladies. You want to know part of the reason why a lot of women will disassociate from trauma? Because they're sleep deprived. Like, this has been proven in studies. It's really interesting, right? Of like, I'm more avoidant. I'm less likely to be able to process difficult things that come up and arise in my day to day or that have occurred in my life. Like, if you think about the last time that you've had a difficult conflict with a family member, if you are not sleeping either leading up to that conflict or shortly after that, you're going to have a much harder time fully processing what happened. And more than likely, you're going to probably sweep that under the rug. And those feelings don't go away, right? And poor sleep also increases anxiety, depression, risk of cognitive decline over time. So we're talking about dementia in later life. Women in menopause already face higher Alzheimer's risks, right? And poor sleep is going to amplify that a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. It also like really increases your risk for cardiovascular disease, which as women, cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of us. And sleep deprivation raises your blood pressure, it raises your CRP. And for those postmenopausal women with chronic insomnia, like, you already have a huge risk for heart disease. So don't skip out on the sleep, because it's super important for you.
Yeah. And it's also really strongly linked to our immune system and longevity, right? Like, talk about, Lindsey, like the what happens intercellularly, like what happens internally when we start to lose sleep.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to lose sleep, like, your natural killer cell activity, which is your anti-cancer surveillance, drops by 70% after just one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep. So your telomeres essentially become shortened. And when your telomeres get shortened, you're going to age biologically a lot faster and you're putting yourself at risk for cancer. And this has like been shown time and time again.
Yeah, so I know, ladies, like we're listing off a lot of things that sound scary, and they are, right? But we do need to take it seriously. Sleep is one of those things that constantly gets put on the back burner, but it is extremely foundational. So if you are dieting, exercising, taking supplements, doing all the things, right? We hear that all the time. I'm doing all the things, but you're not sleeping consistently and meeting your sleep needs and have good sleep hygiene, you are fighting an uphill battle that it is more than likely you are not going to be able to win. It's like it's literally trying to build a house on sand. You have no foundation. You're gonna keep having things collapse, right? And you just keep building on top of it, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, you can't out supplement or out exercise not sleeping, no matter how hard you try, right? So, okay, you're like, I hear you. I need to get sleep, but I can't. So let's talk about some strategies here. And these are like evidence-based strategies. So first, it's kind of like regulating your cortisol. So Laken kind of, you're the master here.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about circadian rhythm earlier. Another thing that will really help to improve that, and we've said this before, and I know it sounds simple, and it is simple in ideation, right? But you have to practically apply it, and that is getting morning sunlight. There are so many studies that have proven this, and it doesn't take a lot. So it literally getting outside. This is not sunlight through a window, through your car windshield on your commute, not through your sunglasses, right? It's literally physically going outside within 1 hour of waking up and getting 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight on your eyes. Don't directly stare into the sun, right? So like just get
Yeah.
outside and get exposure to it so you're getting enough lumens. And that is going to help to anchor that circadian rhythm. It's going to start to trigger the responses in your body that say photosensitivity, right? That says, oh, we're supposed to have more cortisol at this time, right? Because this is when we're supposed to be waking. Things like ashwagandha, what is it? Phosphatidylserine.
Phosphatidylcholine. Yeah.
Yeah. Magnesium bisglycinate, right? These are some of the supplements that are really good in the evening to help to regulate your cortisol and start to lower it if you find yourself with high cortisol in the evening. Magnesium across the board, I think every woman should be taking. We talk about that all the time, and specifically the bisglycinate, ladies. That one's going to help a lot with that like down regulation phase. And then avoiding things like HIT or spiking the heart rate too much, things that are going to cause like high intensity cortisol spikes. You don't want to do that within like an hour to 2 hours, ideally three, but I know for some people that's not feasible with your schedules and with kids' schedules and all of that. But try to get that as far away from your bedtime as possible because that's also going to cause that cortisol to jump up, and you don't want that before you go to bed.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to wake you up, right? And then we want to optimize our hormones. So take some bioidentical progesterone, not like your birth control, like bioidentical progesterone. Get yourself some estrogen so you have stable temperature regulation, fewer night sweats. Maybe take some testosterone and DHEA to help with muscle loss. Okay, if you can't take hormones, it's okay. You can get like sleeping, like cooling blankets that you can put on your bed, right? Like there are other things that you can do to control your temperature, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can also optimize the things like your cortisol. You can optimize your blood sugar, right? So making sure you're getting a balanced dinner with protein and healthy fats that stabilizes your glucose overnight. Not having alcohol and late night sweets, like that literally is going to cause sleep fragmentation. And if you're one of those people that's like, I'm really eating a good dinner with protein and fat, and you're still consistently waking up at 2 to 3 a.m., maybe I always tell people like don't eat 2 to 3 hours before bed, but I'm talking about like a carb, right? So maybe try a protein fat snack before bed. So maybe some almond butter or like a turkey roll up, just to make sure that you can have those blood sugar stabilizations in the middle of the night. And if you don't know if that's happening to you, like wear a glucose monitor for a week or two. It's going to tell you if you're having blood sugar drops in the middle of the night and if that's what's waking you up, right? Make sure your room is cool and dark. Like the best temperature for sleep is 65 to 80, 68. My husband gets so mad at me. He's like, you're freezing me out at nighttime. And I'm like, dude, the temperature matters. So back off,
And you
right?
can put more clothes on.
Exactly.
You know,
Get
if you
yourself so, like I go to bed at 7 o'clock and the light is still out. So you bet your bottom, like I have blackout curtains in my bedroom because you can't sleep when the sun's shining in your eyes, right? Get yourself a weighted blanket. It really helps like increase parasympathetic activity. I have an Euler cooling mat that if I'm like in my luteal phase, I'm turning my cooling mat on so I don't, because that's when progesterone's higher, so I'm getting night sweats. So there's lots of hacks that you can do as far as that goes. And then, just controlling your nervous system.
Yeah, so doing things like deep breathing, right? Like even if it's just box breathing or the 4-7-8 method, like inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, really just intentional breathing. The easiest way is just if you can be intentional about making your exhale longer than your inhale, that's the only thing to worry about. People get, tripped up on how long should I be holding? How long should I be exhaling? How long should I be counting? Just make your exhale longer than your inhale and be intentional about the breath, right? Some
Yeah.
yoga nidra or progressive muscle relaxation or some NSDR, non-sleep deep rest protocol, something that's going to allow you to go through kind of a checklist of turning off different sections of your body, like muscularly and neurologically at the same time, right? There's a ton of resources on YouTube that are free that will take you through a guided practice of that. They're super easy to use and simple. You can just play it while you're laying in your bed before you go to sleep, right? Journaling, surprise, surprise, writing it down, right? But like this helps to reduce that mental to-do list activation, the stuff that's running through our brain when our GABA is not doing what it needs to be doing, right? When it's suppressed. So if you are somebody that finds that you're sitting there laying, racking your brain and you can't fall asleep, I tell ladies that have that issue, keep a journal by your bed or just a notebook, right? And anything that comes up while you're laying there, just write it down and get it out of your head to create some space and clarity, and then try to go back to sleep. And more often than not, it generally helps. So it's worth a try. It's not certainly not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, and then I mean you can try supplements like magnesium glycinate, glycine, L-theanine, low dose melatonin. I would just highly encourage you to stay away from things that knock you out. So stay away from the Ambien, stay away from the Benadryl, stay away from those things. And if you're doing
For the
all,
love of God, ladies, stop taking NyQuil to go
yes,
to sleep at night.
for
That is
reals.
a huge pet peeve of mine. That shit is not good for you. Stop drinking that to go to bed.
It's not good for your liver at all, at all. Um, and okay, I hear you. You're doing all of these things and you're like, okay, it's not helping. So that's when labs can come in. So, doing a continuous glucose monitor, checking your cortisol patterns, making sure your thyroid, your T3 is okay, checking your hormones, ruling out sleep apnea, because sleep apnea can be like if you're snoring and you're waking up with headaches, like sleep apnea can cause a lot of issues. Wear a sleep tracker like Whoop, Aura. Those things can really tell you what's going on with your sleep, and they can make a huge impact, right? And just know that like your sleep isn't. This is one thing that's not optional.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's say, like, what are some of the things that if they wanted to take, like, if they wanted to get tested, what would be like your top recommendation? If they tried all the things, they're doing everything, they're putting all the routines in place, they're adding the supplementation, and it still can't sleep, what would be the top thing that you would want to test?
I mean, your thyroid and your hormones, I would say, and your cortisol. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But again, that's
Awesome.
after we've rolled out all this implementation and made sure, right? So it's not just something that's going to happen in midlife that you can't do anything about. It is super important. It's a big foundation of healing for your hormones, for your metabolism, for your longevity, and what your health looks like for the remainder of your life. So it's really important. Don't settle for just saying, well, this is just what happens when I get older. Put these practices into place and make a difference with how you feel.
Yeah. So if this resonated with you, like, share it. Um, get your sleep, ladies. Have some sweet dreams.
Yes, yes. Please make sure that you rate and review the podcast. It means the world to us. Hit those 5 stars, follow along with us online. And thank you guys for joining us today. Hopefully it was not something that would put you to sleep, but will help you get to sleep. We would love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye, guys.
See ya.